Hello, everyone. Sarah Muirhead, Managing Director and Editor at National Hog Farmer, and welcome to this National Hog Farmer Fast Chat. Today, we're talking to Dr. Paul Thomas, veterinarian at AMVC. Dr. Thomas, thank you for joining us here today.
Hey, thanks. Good to be with you.
So let's jump right in here, and we want to talk to you about your experience with Pradalex. Now, I know you've trialed Pradalex, so why don't you start by giving us a little bit of background on the study that you did and how that was set up exactly?
Sure. Yeah. So just have a little bit of background with it being a new product release. Kind of got some into my hands and just to look at how it would work here in like a late grow finish setting. So pretty straightforward, simple trial, but just kind of a comparison side to side, looking at multiple two barn sites. Filling with similar sources of pigs that were commingled. So we saw a little bit of respiratory challenge. And then we just kind of went in and in one barn on the site, we would look at our standard protocol for treating respiratory disease, which could be any number of antibiotic choices. And then in the side-by-side comparison barn on each site, we just substituted in the Pradalex to see how that would compare to our kind of current best practices. So then just, went forward and the pigs saw what they saw for challenges and we kind of tracked treatments and tracked what outcomes were. And actually that study is still ongoing. So we kind of had an initial look at the data. But the real answer will come as we get those pigs all the way to market and see how they do all the way through and understand a little bit more about the late challenges they'll see.
So, of course, we're curious. What are you finding so far in your research?
Yeah. Curious to see how it ends, but starting off, it looks pretty promising. So, just kind of real briefly, if we take an average of all of the groups, what we're seeing is a 0.1% reduction in mortality across all the barns that were treated with Pradalex compared to, and I think it's important to note, not compared to no treatment, compared to our current best practices, for treating respiratory disease in these pigs. Another thing to keep in mind is these are fairly high health pigs. They're going to see the occasional respiratory challenge, but they're not undergoing any significant challenges. So not running high mortality rates or anything like that. So on average, seeing a 0.1% reduction in mortality after about 8 weeks on trial. So only about halfway through the period that we're going to look at. One detail, though, is one of the sites did see a pretty significant PRRS challenge, lateral PRRS challenge that came in and really made their mortality skyrocket to the point where you're having so much going on at both sites there, or at both barns on the site, that it kind of masks any effect. So if we take that barn out and look at just the other kind of normal barns, we saw actually twice as much reduction, so a 0.2% reduction in mortality after about 8 weeks of treatment. So really promising signs. Really looking forward to seeing what that looks like as we get later. The more time goes on, we get into kind of the fall flu season, and we start to see more complicated influenza where maybe mycoplasmas and other things make those food breaks more expensive, more costly, higher losses there. So really waiting to see how those groups close out, but really looks good at first glance.
Always good to have a reduction in mortality. And it sounds like you're testing it in real life, situations, which is great to see. You've got some challenges, and that's what producers are going to have. So it's great to be able to at least see it in action there. So what would you say then your initial thoughts are on Pradalex as an option in producer and veterinarian's toolbox? What's your initial thoughts there?
I think it's a great option. So for swine respiratory disease. So it's a fluoroquinolone, and we do have restrictions on how we're able to use those. So within the context of the label being, labeled for multiple bacteria that cause swine respiratory disease in pigs on feed, I think it's a great option. There's a couple things about the drug that really lend itself well to the growing pig, especially the larger growing pig. So, it's a one-time treatment, so it's labeled as one shot. And then if you look at how the drug actually is going to work in the pig's body, it's not time dependent. It's peak concentration of drug dependent. So you really only need a one-time treatment to see bactericidal effects. So that's great when you're in a barn and you've got pigs that have respiratory disease. You only have to find them once and treat them once. You don't have to follow up multiple days in a row, which anyone out shoring in the barn knows that that adds an extra level of challenge, right? So that's one good thing. Another great thing about the product is it's 1.7 mils, I think, per 100 pounds of body weight, if I'm not mistaken. So if you think about a pig size that you're going to be treating in a grow finish barn, a 5 milliliter syringe, and often most of our treatments are kind of capped at 5 mils per injection site. That's going to get you right up close to a 300-pound pig. So you're also not going to have to be giving multiple shots or breaking your total dose volume up over your grow finish pig. So it works really nice in the grow finish barn from that standpoint. So just shoot them once, works very quickly, and should only need one dose per pig and not need to split that dose up. And I don't know how far into the weeds you want to get on the drug itself. There's some pretty cool characteristics to the drug itself that I guess is well suited to grow finish, but just really good when it comes to using antibiotics in general. The way this drug works is it's a third generation fluoroquinolone, and so activity on fluoroquinolones, well, first of all, they're bactericidal, meaning they don't just hold bacterial populations in check, they kill the bacteria. And then secondly, the way they work is some drugs work by, you got to hit this level and then hold it steady. Think about your kid, you take him to the doctor and they give you amoxicillin and you're on it for 14 days, right? So you have to be on that drug for a long time. Some drugs, you just need to hit a real good high concentration, and the higher it goes, the better it's going to work. So you just need a peak concentration above what we call minimum inhibitory concentration. So that's how this drug works. And it not only does it hit real high levels, but it does it very quickly. So if you think about a very valuable pig, maybe seeing some acute respiratory disease in the finisher, you do want something that's going to work quickly and kill the bacteria. So those pigs get over it quickly, get back to eating, because, the longer the drug takes to work, that's more days that pig's not feeling well, it's off feed, it's not growing, and then there's all the challenges. Pigs off feed, they're at risk of other problems. And so from that context, it works really well too. So yeah, I mean, those are just kind of a lot of the characteristics of the drug itself kind of lend itself well to that growing pig phase of production.
Very good. Thanks for that detail. So what would you say are your final takeaways? What key message do you want our audience to remember here today?
Yeah, I think so I'll be clear. I looked at this in the context of the growing pig, right? So not nursery, but feeder to finish. And what I found, working there was the drug appeared to work at least as well, but probably better at this point than our current best practices for treating respiratory disease. So very effective, very easy to use, a one-time treatment, one dose, and that one dose in that 5 ml syringe that most hog producers are going to be using is going to cover all sizes of pig that you're going to need to treat in that finishing barn. So very easy to use, very effective. And then some of the other parameters about it, I think, just make it a responsible drug to use as well. Third generation fluoroquinolone, multiple mechanisms of action, actually reduces the likelihood of antibiotic resistance. So again, going to be a good choice to use long term and probably not need to worry about other challenges like the drug not working or leading to antibiotic resistance, things like that. So suited to the grow finish phase, and especially think about those high value pigs that die quickly when you get respiratory disease. That's where a drug like this probably makes sense to get in there, get those pigs treated quickly and better quickly, and not worry about ongoing losses, right?
Very good. Well, that's all we have time for here today. I want to thank you for joining us, Dr. Paul Thomas. Thank you for being with us.
Yep, thank you.
For National Hog Farmer Fast Chat, I'm Sarah Muirhead.